Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, after we got through the opening festivities, I wanted to take this Monday opportunity to welcome everybody back now that we are in full swing and getting down to the business to which we were elected. I want to share some of the priorities of the House Republican caucus this morning with our colleagues, especially in light of the governor's speech the other night. I listened intently, as did my colleagues. We heard certainly perhaps a slightly different tone than last year, but we were all struck by the checking off of the boxes of issues that seem to play only to an increasingly liberal progressive base, and I understand why the governor would want to do that, but it wasn't any less disappointing to see the nothing but passing references to bipartisanship. And of course, those of us on this side of the aisle have come to learn that whenever anybody references bipartisanship on the other side, typically what they mean is Republicans doing what Democrats want. That is not the definition of bipartisanship, Mr. Speaker. Bipartisanship is working together on places where we can find common interests, and we think we have some places where we can do that this session, the first of which I think should be something that we should all be able to get behind, and that is on the issue of taxes and tax relief for hardworking Virginians. To be very clear, the governor's proposal to increase taxes on those hardworking Virginians is dead on arrival. We are not going to participate in that. We're not going to discuss that. That is a non-starter for this caucus, and we are not going to go along with it. And I just wanted to lay down that marker. It shouldn't be a surprise that that is our position, Mr. Speaker, given the fact that last year this caucus stopped around $770 million in proposed tax increases from Democrats. Our priority again this year is not only to protect those taxpayers from those types of proposed increases, but to protect them from the consequences that may come if we do not act. And specifically, it is our intent to raise the standard deduction and continue to allow people to itemize their deductions on their taxes. Those proposals, you would think, having heard the reaction from some, is outlandish, that we would dare to protect hardworking people using those mechanisms, Mr. Speaker. I want to be clear about another thing. This is not a tax cut for the rich, as is so often the predictable refrain of the opponents of tax relief. Our plan is squarely focused on tax relief to hardworking middle-class families and individuals who power our economy, and something like that, providing that relief for those hardworking people and families, should be a bipartisan place where we can all find common ground, Mr. Speaker, and I encourage common ground in this area. The other area where we have demonstrated bipartisan work throughout the year is something that I want to commend the Speaker for his leadership in this area, and that is on the issue of school safety. As the Speaker knows, for the first time in 150 years, the Speaker appointed a select committee to work on a specific issue. And this is an issue that is increasingly in the news and increasingly the source of much angst by parents around this Commonwealth. And the Speaker's leadership took that on, and I commend you, Mr. Speaker, for doing that. And we think we had some great work product that came of the Select Committee on School Safety, including 24 priority recommendations, which will include, among other things, realigning the roles and responsibilities of school counselors to better emphasize direct student services, allowing retired law enforcement officers greater opportunity to work as school resource officers or school security officers without having to have their retirement affected. And that will, of course, provide us with opportunities to have better, more experienced law enforcement officers in those roles, to create a statewide tip line for suicide prevention and mental health concerns, and finally, increasing funding for the Center for School and Campus Safety, which does so much good work across our Commonwealth to try to bring attention to these issues and to try and resolve them to keep our kids safer in this place where they should all not only feel safe, but actually be safe. And we are encouraged that we have some great recommendations coming from the School Safety Select Committee. To wrap up, Mr. Speaker, protecting the middle class from tax increases and protecting our children in the place where they may be vulnerable is certainly a priority of ours. But there are numerous other places where I could spend many more minutes than we have this morning articulating those issues. They include lowering health care costs for those same families, fighting the opioid epidemic, which is so rampant throughout our state, reforming our higher education system to make it more affordable and to better prepare our students for the challenges to come and the needs of our workforce, promoting economic development, making our communities safer, something that I have worked on for 14 years now, Mr. Speaker, supporting our teachers, law enforcement officers, and other hardworking state employees, likewise is a priority of this caucus. These are things that should and typically are sources of bipartisan cooperation. I wish we had heard more about them during the State of the Commonwealth address. We certainly take the governor at his word, at least, that he does want to work with us on these things. We wish we had heard more about it. You know, there are many in my caucus who have other things that they're concerned about. Lots of hot button issues that divide people here that I know the other side of the aisle is not interested in. And we're not asking, you know, for you to reinvent who you are. We're just saying there are places where we can find common ground. And protecting kids and lowering health care costs and providing tax relief to hardworking Virginians are certainly places we should be able to do that. So we hope that our colleagues on the other side of the aisle will meet us halfway on some of these issues and work with us to better serve the people we all represent. And I thank you for the time, Mr. Speaker.